Hello, everyone. This is Jackie Schwab back with the Press Play Lifestyle Inspired podcast, as a podcast that does interviews with people like our friend here, Stephanie, on topics to help you, our listeners, find the resources, tools, and support you need to be your best inspired self. How are you today, Stephanie?
I'm absolutely fabulous. Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome. My husband and I we fancy everyone with accents. So he just especially Australian, it's his favorite. So
Uh,
we'll have to send him your podcast episode ahead so he can be happy. He really does. It's super cute. I'm like, okay. So I am so glad that you took the time. I know we have time zone differences, but I appreciate that you showed up today and made some time for us, considering you are the time genius. So all about time and lack of and how to make that work for us. So why don't you introduce yourself, Stephanie, to our listeners and tell us a little bit about what you do.
so my name is Stephanie Thompson, and I am I'm a business coach for new coaches, but what I concentrate on is creating time or reclaiming time in your day. So I know when particularly new coaches, they're no longer working, they're trying to get the business started up, they've got the children, they've got the parents, they've got the friends coming around knocking on the door saying, do you fancy a coffee? And all of that sort of thing. And before you know it, all the time has just disappeared, and you're trying to build your business in that last hour of the day when all you want to do is just crash out on the sofa and watch TV because you're shattered. And so what I do is I got some hints and tips on how to reclaim some of that time.
I love it. So if for anyone who hasn't already heard, on her website, which we will share in the show notes, she has a great download that's 10 tips to create time in your day that I found extremely helpful. So thank you so much for that, Stephanie. So why don't you give us a couple hints then of some ways that we can reclaim our time? Because I'm a busy mom coach person. I've
Yeah.
got 4 small humans. I do work hard all day though, but I could still find some time, I bet. I bet you have some ideas.
So one of the things, and I have a corporate background as well as doing coaching, so I've got tools from all over the place. When I was in corporate world, I never ever got to the end of my list. And I had this list, and at one point, I think it was 5 pages long, this master list, and it was ridiculous. Got totally stressed, totally overwhelmed. And then I learnt a really useful trick. Yes, have your master list. Absolutely essential to have a master list so that you don't lose sight of all the things you want to do, want to achieve, how you want to grow. But on a daily basis, just have 3 jobs on the list. And ideally, those jobs should be less than 1 hour, because then at some point during the day, you should be able to pull in 3 small jobs. And when you look at the job and it's going to take longer than an hour, then break it down until it's into smaller jobs of less than an hour. For argument's sake, design a website. We all know that takes a little while. But what you can do is you can break it down into what colour am I going to use? What font am I going to use? What pictures am I going to use? And they can be smaller jobs that build into design a website. And that's one of the things that really makes a difference for me, is just having 3 jobs on the daily list rather than a master list that will totally overwhelm you, stress you out, and you don't even bother starting because it's too big.
It's too big, yeah. So that actually reminds me of Ivy Lee was one of the first management consultants, and there's it's almost fabled, but there's a book about it where he went in to Charles Schwab, or they're rich people in the States, and said, he said, we need to get more productive. And he said, okay, don't pay me now. Pay me after you save all this money. And he said, you get to put 6 things on the list in order. Do the first one first, and don't start anything until the first one's done. and 1 and 2 and 3, etc. He said, now, if you get to number 3 and you don't finish it, it's number 1 in the next day.
That's right.
Right. And so essentially very similar, but it worked so well that it was like the equivalent of, it was like $33,000 back in the 50s or something, but it ended up being like $500,000 worth of a check, is how much astronomically he improved the time management just by kind of focusing, which is interesting because I'm a master's degree in project management, and is simple as that seems, it's not easy.
No.
Right? It's not easy to do. They taught us to look at this huge thing, right? And then sort of try to chunk it down. But by the time you like got this giant thing down to this small thing, like you're exhausted. It takes as much time to do that.
And the thing is, like I said, it's a source of overwhelm and a source of stress when you've got this huge list in front of you. You've no idea where to start, and you just don't bother starting. You procrastinate, and that's another way of not getting on or not growing your business is procrastination.
Yeah, I think I talk about procrastination a bit myself, and it's actually your body's just kind of like, look, we need a break. And so if you refuse to take one because we're all so overwhelmed and you can't figure that out, I'm just going to have you do nothing mindlessly until you figure out a productive way to handle your time, right?
And that's another thing. You can have a whole day in front of you, and because you've got this huge list, you don't know where to start. And before you know it, you spent all your time on social media, or you've been watching cat videos on Facebook, or whatever you're doing. The day has disappeared, you've done nothing, and you've still got the list.
Yeah, it's not fun. One of my friends, her name, she calls herself the goddess Jackie Gates, which I just love it because she calls herself the goddess and she has the same name as me. But she calls hers the Tada list. She is pretty fabulous. It makes sense. She's from South Africa. So she says she doesn't count all the things on the list. She just talks about the things she's finished, right? So it's tada. Look, so that was her tip. It works occasionally, except for if you multitask and do nothing, a little bit on everything, and you never tada. So similar, focus, pick one so you can go ta-da, I finished one.
That's it. Yes, and that's a really big thing, because if you do these 3 jobs every day, at the end of the week you've actually done 15 jobs, on the assumption you've done all 3 each day. 15 jobs. Is that not worth a glass of wine or a box of chocolates, or sit in front of a decent film on a Friday night to celebrate just how much you've achieved, rather than having that huge list and not knowing where to start? You've actually done 15 things. Even if they are only half an hour, you've done those 15 things.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's an amazing kind of trick or tip. So you said you specifically I'm sure you attract lots of types of clients just based on being a goddess of time, but business coach for new coaches. So what other things do you support new coaches with, in terms of, other than, not that time's completely important, only non-renewable resource we have, right? So what other things do you provide as services to prospective coaches?
So I'm sure you know as well as I do that if somebody decides they want to be a coach and they're suddenly faced with, well, where do I start? I haven't got a clue. Do I need a website? Do I need a Facebook group? Do I need a Facebook page? Do I need to go and buy, I don't know, some CRM system, and they haven't got a clue where to start. So what I've done is I've put a simple steps, keep it simple steps through that will help them get to starting to attract clients without it actually costing them any money, because they haven't got any money. And then once they've started attracting the clients and getting paid and actually making money, then they can start investing in where they want to put their money. And again, I'm sure you found, when, like I did when I first started, what you believe you want to do when you first start and what you do 6 months later, a year later, 4 years later is very, very different. So to invest all that money up front on something that you and I know through experience will change, it seems such a shame. So that's why I try and give them the simple steps to start them off that then builds.
Yeah, it seems to be the only constant in our work is change, right?
Yeah, I think that's in any industry, anywhere across the world, whether it's a service industry or a products industry. The only thing guaranteed is change, definitely.
And I love that. I love your approach. And unfortunately, I do relate to all of the things that you've said. And you know, even a few of us I've been in some different coaching programs as well. And the problem is great coaches, it doesn't matter if you're an amazing coach if no one knows who you are, right? So we've got to figure out a way to get in front of an audience, and you're always, I think I was always surprised that the audience that I'm attracted to isn't the one I necessarily thought I was attracting, right?
Yes.
So I think that finding that organically is certainly a cost avoidance measure than investing in attracting a bunch of people that you know you're not really going to work well with anyway.
I was talking with a coach the other day, and he concentrates on Facebook, and he'd done his Facebook analytics or whatever you call it. I can't remember what he said now. But he thought he was coaching 19 to 26-year-old boys, gentlemen, sorry. And when he did his analysis, he found out that his stuff was actually being downloaded by 35 to 45-year females.
Women, yeah.
Yeah.
Who's on
so
Facebook?
He then changed his wording so that it was more appropriate to his audience, and you know,
who he wanted his audience to be, right? Yeah, who he wanted his audience to be. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
definitely. Fun. So, right. So we've talked about. So, how would someone work with you? Like, what would that look like? Or do you have courses? Are you a kind of a purist coach? What's your method of support?
What I do at the moment is I have a group on Facebook that they can come along and join, and then from there go into subscription where they can have access to all my material all year round. So that's what I'm growing at the moment. There is the website to go and have a look to see bits and bobs of what I do, which is stephaniethompsoncoaching.com. You know, it's as simple as that. And that's where they can download the top 10 tips, as you've already kindly said. So, you know, they've got access to that. One of the other tips that I found is having a reason for working and a reason for having a personal life. That's really important. I just thought I'd share that one with you because, yes, we want to grow our business by 50 clients in the year and that sort of thing. But what do you want to do in your own personal time? So for me, I absolutely love knitting, believe it or not. I adore knitting. If I don't knit, I feel as though I have withdrawal symptoms. And so when it comes to 6 o'clock or whatever my finish time is, I've got something I want to go and do. So I'm not working 15, 18-hour days and wearing myself out and then losing interest in my business because I've spent so much time in it, because I've got that thing that I want to do on the personal side of stuff too. And as you've said, you've got 4 little people, so your time is definitely called away from your business.
Yeah, well, I actually like to crochet. My grandmother.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, my grandmother taught me. My grandmother passed about a year ago, but she used to, where we live, there were a lot of people who had migrated from Mexico to where we are.
Yes.
And we're in like the coldest part of the States, right? It's super cold by us. Well, and it's warmer in Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah, much warmer. So my grandmother every year, because where she worked, there was like a lot of migrant workers. We would make hats and gloves and mittens all year.
Mm-hmm.
So then when winter came, she had enough to give to everyone because there were always new people. My grandma worked in a factory, and 3 garbage bags every year we would bring in, and all of the things would be gone, like all of them. So yeah, I haven't picked it up. I did Afghans for a long time, and but I haven't done it in a while. So maybe I need to pick it back up. I made little teddy bears. That was fun. They're super cute. Those little like bears.
Yeah.
So I think you're right though. If your work is your work and your work is your hobby, then there's never a break, right? There's never a way to step out of the craziness and kind of let your brain think about other things.
And that's what I was going to say. You need that space to sort of sit and think of something else so that the ideas can come in. You know that saying, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Well, you do in the UK. I don't know whether you guys do.
We do.
But if you work all the time, then, and you're constantly pushing, how can you find new stuff? How can you listen to what, you know, is you being told through the universe, through your intuition and the likes? It's having that time away to be able to listen and for your business to catch up. And you need to actually regenerate your brain. You need to relax. You need to actually just chill out. Otherwise, you're just going to wear yourself into the ground.
I completely agree. And we use that saying too, but I say all work and no play makes Jackie a dull girl.
Yes.
Because it works for me much better. But yeah, definitely. So I love it. So I went on your website. You have all kinds of, you got a couple and a chat, which is sort of a one-on-one, which is lovely. 4-week program to time lacking to get cracking.
Yes, so that's 4 weeks concentrated of doing 60 steps in 4 weeks to actually grow that business. And
wow,
that's getting some really good traction, that course is.
Is that 3 jobs a day for 4 weeks?
Yep.
Oh, look at you practicing what you preach. I love it. And then you have a 5-day challenge as well, right?
That's right. Yeah. So the next challenge is the 26th of March. This is 2020, if anybody's listening at another time. But I do run them regularly throughout the year, and you can sign up for them on the website. And that's a week where I share some highlights of tips and hints on how to save time in your day and get yourself focused fast.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, is there anything else you would like to share with our client or with our listeners, or any last words of advice to kind of get your overwhelm under control?
The last words of advice is celebrate what you achieve. It really, really is important, because you're so concentrating on pushing yourself up the hill that you forget how far you've come. So get the dopamine hit on celebrating what you have achieved, because dopamine is addictive and therefore you will want more of it. So make sure you celebrate. Like I said, it's ideal on a Friday night. You've done 15 tasks that week, three a day. And it really is a motivator in itself.
Oh, I love that advice. I think we do forget that, don't we? We're in such a hurry to get to a destination. We forgot there's a journey. Absolutely. Life is the journey, right? The destination's death. So maybe you should back it up a little bit to be happy for the things you have. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for taking the time to meet with us today.
My pleasure. It's been an absolute dream to talk to you too, Jack. Thank you.
Thank you.